Imagine you are a manager at the 2026 World Cup. You have spent 2 years building your system. Your analysts have watched every qualifier, every friendly, every slightly suspicious training clip filmed from behind a fence by a man named Tactical Dave, 89. Then the tournament starts, and suddenly, the old World Cup logic does not quite work anymore. This is not the clean, familiar 32-team World Cup, where 2 bad games usually meant packing your suitcase and pretending you learned a lot from the experience. This is the expanded version: 48 teams, 12 groups of 4, 104 matches, and a new escape hatch where some third-place teams can still survive. In other words, chaos has been given a VIP pass. But here is the key thing. This format does not just change the number of games. It changes the way teams think. It changes risk. It changes pressing. It changes when you attack, when you hide, when you rotate, and when you shamelessly play for a draw while calling it game management. So in this guide, we are not just asking who has the best players. That is the lazy question. We are asking which groups have tactical traps, stylistic clashes, vulnerable favorites, dangerous underdogs, and matchups where one bad build-up pattern could ruin an entire summer. Because World Cup 2026 will not just be about stars, it will be about systems under pressure. 1. The new tactical math: why third place changes everything. Before we talk about Brazil, Spain, Germany, Morocco, Japan, the USA, or whichever team your uncle insists is secretly dangerous because he watched one YouTube compilation at 2 a.m., we need to talk about the biggest tactical opponent at this World Cup: the format. Because the 2026 World Cup is not just bigger, it is structurally different. There are 12 groups of 4. The top 2 in each group go through automatically. Then, the 8 best third-place teams also qualify for the round of 32. That sounds like admin. It is not. It is tactics wearing a spreadsheet costume. In the old 32-team format, one bad opening match could put you in immediate survival mode. Lose game 1 and suddenly game 2 becomes a courtroom drama. Everyone is sweating. The coach is pretending to be calm. The federation president is texting journalists off the record. Very normal World Cup behavior. But in 2026, the psychological math changes. A team can lose 1 match, draw 1 match, win 1 match, finish third, and still have a realistic chance to survive. That creates a very different risk profile. It means some underdogs may not need to chase games recklessly. It also means some favorites may rotate earlier, protect legs, and avoid emotional football, which is usually code for "please stop crossing from 40 yards like it's 2006. Here is the tactical mechanism. If third place can qualify, then goal difference becomes a monster hiding under the bed. A 1-0 defeat is not the same as a 4-1 defeat. For lower-ranked teams, the objective in match 1 may not be win. It may be stay alive, protect goal difference, frustrate the favorite, and turn the final group game into a coin flip. So expect more compact mid-blocks, more 5-4-1 defensive shells, more tactical fouls in transition, more goalkeepers lying on the ball like it owes them rent. But here is the steel man for the other side. This format could also produce more open football. Why? Because with 32 teams advancing from 48, many teams will believe they still have a route through. That can encourage late attacking substitutions. It can make a 1-1 draw feel less dead. It can also create wild third match scenarios where teams are watching another group's result while pretending they are fully focused. Football's most sacred tradition: doing math badly under pressure. This is where group style matters. A possession-heavy favorite drawn with 2 transition teams and 1 deep block underdog faces a totally different puzzle from a favorite drawn with 3 teams who all want to press. In one group, your center backs spend 90 minutes passing around a wall. In another, your goalkeeper becomes a panic distributor in a wind tunnel. And this is why tactical group guides matter. The group stage is no longer just about who is better. It is about which styles punish which weaknesses, which teams can manage variance, and which coaches understand that surviving the new World Cup may require both ambition and shameless pragmatism. A little elegance, a little calculation, a little "we absolutely meant to defend this low." And probably at least one match where everyone discovers the best third-place table like it is an ancient religious text. 2. Group A: Mexico, South Africa, Korea, Republic, Czechia, the host pressure cooker. Group A is the kind of group that looks simple until you stare at it for 5 seconds. Then it starts staring back. You have Mexico, the co-host, carrying the emotional weight of an opening match at home. You have South Africa, returning to a World Cup opener against Mexico exactly because football has a dramatic writing department and apparently they enjoy callbacks. You have Korea Republic, one of Asia's most consistent World Cup nations. And you have Czechia, a European playoff survivor with enough physicality to make every set piece feel like a minor workplace hazard. This group is not the glamour group. It is the pressure group. Because Mexico are not just playing football here, they are hosting a national emotional referendum with grass stains. The opening match comes on June 11th, 2026, and the memory floating in the background is obvious. South Africa versus Mexico, June 11th, 2010, the opening game in Johannesburg. Sifiwe Tshabalala scored one of the most iconic opening goals in World Cup history. Rafael Marquez equalized, and the match finished 1-1. 16 years later, same matchup, different continent, same emotional chaos. Tactically, Mexico's biggest question is not talent, it is control. Their best version usually wants rhythm. Fullbacks pushing, midfielders receiving between lines, wide players attacking isolated defenders, and the crowd turning every half chance into a national emergency. The danger is that home advantage can become home impatience. If Mexico start forcing the final pass too early, they can turn their own possession into transition fuel for opponents. Think of it like cooking rice under pressure while everyone in the kitchen screams instructions. That is Mexico in an opener. Their recent 5-1 warm-up win over Serbia will help confidence, especially with goals from Johan Vazquez, Raul Jimenez, and Luis Chavez. But warm-up games are not World Cup games. Warm-up matches are like movie trailers. Sometimes they show the best bits. Sometimes the actual film is 2 hours of midfield congestion and a full-back getting cooked. South Africa's route is likely more pragmatic. Against Mexico, they probably do not need to dominate possession. They need to survive the emotional storm. Expect a compact block, careful distances between midfield and defense, and quick releases into wide areas when Mexico's fullbacks push high. The first 20 minutes are everything. If South Africa concede early, the game can open in a way that suits Mexico. If they get to halftime level, the crowd gets anxious. Mexico's passing risks increase, and suddenly South Africa can turn the stadium into a nervous living room. Korea Republic bring the most interesting tactical elasticity in this group. They can press, they can counter, they can carry threat through elite forward movement, especially if Son Heung-min remains the central reference point emotionally and tactically. The key with Korea is vertical timing. They are dangerous when they can win the ball and attack before the opponent resets. Against Mexico, that means attacking the space behind aggressive fullbacks. Against Czechia, it means moving the ball quickly enough to avoid being dragged into aerial duels and second ball warfare. Because Czechia will absolutely invite you to that party, and nobody leaves that party with clean socks. Czechia's profile is probably the most European tournament problem in the group. They may not have the fantasy football shine of some bigger nations, but they have ingredients that travel well: structure, size, set-piece threat, and players comfortable in physically intense matches. Tomasz Suchek gives them penalty box arrivals and aerial presence. Patrick Schick provides finishing pedigree. Adam Hložek adds another forward reference. Reuters reported that their squad leans heavily on domestic champions Slavia Prague, with 10 players from the club, which matters because club connections can reduce the usual national team problem. Hello, nice to meet you. Please defend this transition with me. Now, the obvious argument is that Mexico should top this group. They are at home. They have World Cup experience. They are used to CONCACAF's emotional weather. They have the crowd, the altitude familiarity in some venues, and the pressure of expectation. That is the strongest case. But here is the counter. Host pressure does weird things. Mexico have also repeatedly carried the burden of being good enough to escape groups, but not always clean enough to convince everyone while doing it. In the expanded format, this may actually help them. They do not have to be perfect. They need to be stable. The tactical match to circle is Mexico versus Korea Republic. That could decide the group's rhythm. If Mexico control Korea's transitions, they look like group winners. If Korea repeatedly breaks behind Mexico's advanced defenders, the group becomes messy fast. The other match to watch is Czechia versus South Africa. That might not trend worldwide, it might not get the casual viewer excited, but in tournament terms, it could be massive. That is the match where a third-place survival path could be built from a single set piece, a single deflection, or one moment where somebody forgets to mark Souček because apparently aerial midfielders are invisible until they score. So Group A's tactical theme is simple: emotion versus structure. Mexico have the stage, Korea have the transition threat, Czechia have the set-piece knife, South Africa have the underdog route: defend, frustrate, survive, and make the favorite nervous. And honestly, that is a very World Cup way to begin. 3. Group B. Canada, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Qatar, Switzerland, the cold-blooded efficiency group. Group B is not the loudest group. It is not the group that screams Hollywood trailer, slow-motion tunnel walk, dramatic violin. Group B is more like a chess match in a very expensive tracksuit. You have Canada, the co-hosts, trying to turn home energy into actual World Cup control. You have Switzerland, the reliable tournament machine that somehow keeps appearing in knockout rounds like a tax bill. You have Bosnia and Herzegovina back on the World Cup stage with a squad profile built around technique, experience, and emotional volatility. And you have Qatar, who arrive with a very different kind of tournament memory after hosting in 2022. The tactical tension here is delicious. Canada are probably the most explosive team in the group when the game stretches. Their best attacking moments tend to come when the pitch opens up: fast wide progressions, early switches, aggressive runs into the half spaces, and direct attacks through players like Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David. If Canada can turn games into track meets, they become genuinely uncomfortable to defend. But if opponents force them into slow possession against a set block, the question becomes more complicated. That is where tournament football gets cruel. At club level, you can spend weeks refining your attacking automation. At a World Cup, sometimes your positional play principle is just your left back trying to solve 3 defenders, 2 midfielders, and the emotional expectations of an entire country. Good luck, buddy. Switzerland are almost the opposite profile emotionally. They rarely feel like chaos. They feel like a team built by engineers who do not believe in unnecessary drama. Their strength is tournament competence: compact spacing, good distances between lines, experienced midfield management, and enough individual quality to punish mistakes without needing to turn every match into a festival. This is why Switzerland are often underestimated by casual viewers. They do not always look terrifying. They look organized. And then suddenly, you check the bracket, and they are still there. Opta's pre-tournament model reportedly gives Switzerland an 85.4% chance of progression, the best in the group. That does not mean they are guaranteed anything. Models are not prophecy. They are not magical football oracles living in a spreadsheet cave, but they do reflect something important. Switzerland's floor is high. They are less likely to collapse than most teams in their tier. Bosnia and Herzegovina are the tactical wildcard. Their strongest argument is obvious. They have enough technical quality to hurt teams that give them time. If Bosnia can slow the tempo, draw opponents forward, and find pockets between midfield and defense, they can make games uncomfortable. Against Canada, that could mean denying transition space and forcing Canada to attack through crowded central areas. Against Qatar, it could mean using technical superiority to control territory. Against Switzerland, it becomes a battle of patience and execution. But the counter-argument is just as strong. Bosnia cannot afford emotional football. In a group where goal difference may matter, one chaotic 15-minute spell can wreck the campaign. The expanded format gives third-place teams hope, but it also punishes teams that lose heavily. Bosnia's route is probably built on control, not drama, which is unfortunate because Balkan football and drama have historically been on very familiar terms. Qatar's role is the most interesting from a perception standpoint, because casual viewers may still remember the 2022 World Cup, where Qatar lost all 3 group games as hosts. That is the obvious narrative, but reducing them to that would be lazy. Qatar have tournament experience, Asian Cup pedigree, and enough familiarity among players to make them structurally coherent. Their likely route in this group is not to dominate possession against Switzerland or Canada. It is to stay compact, survive pressure, manage set pieces, and turn matches into low-event games where one transition or one dead ball changes everything. That is not glamorous. It is also not stupid. In tournament football, ugly efficiency pays rent. The match to circle is Canada versus Switzerland. That game is probably the ideological final of the group. Speed and home momentum versus structure and tournament calm. If Canada can pull Switzerland's block apart and attack quickly before they reset, the group opens wide. If Switzerland slow the game down, manage Davies' influence, and force Canada into sterile possession, they can quietly take control. The sneaky match is Canada versus Bosnia and Herzegovina. Why? Because that could become a trap game. Canada will likely expect to attack. Bosnia may want Canada to attack. If Canada's fullbacks push high and Bosnia finds central outlets, the hosts could face the most dangerous phrase in tournament football: unexpected transitional vulnerability. That phrase sounds boring. It is how favorites get humbled. So Group B's theme is clear: pace versus patience. Canada want energy. Switzerland want control, Bosnia want rhythm, Qatar wants survival. And with third place potentially enough to advance, this group could become less about who dominates and more about who avoids the one terrible mistake that turns a manageable tournament into a national therapy session. 4. Group C: Brazil, Morocco, Haiti, Scotland. The trap group disguised as a parade. Group C has one giant headline: Brazil are here. And whenever Brazil are in a World Cup group, the global football brain does the same thing. It starts playing samba music, cuts to beach shots, mentions Pelé, mentions 2002, then acts shocked when the actual match is a tense 1-1 with 37 tactical fouls and a fullback needing emotional support. Because modern Brazil are not just vibes, they are a tactical problem. They enter this World Cup as the only nation with 5 men's World Cup titles: 1958, 1962, 1970, 1994, and 2002. That history matters because it creates expectation, but it can also distort analysis. People see the shirt and assume inevitability. The shirt is powerful. The shirt does not defend transitions by itself. And this group is dangerous precisely because it attacks Brazil from different angles. You have Morocco, the 2022 semi-finalists, one of the great tactical stories of the last World Cup. You have Scotland, back on the stage with emotional intensity, physical structure, and the sort of national tournament energy that can either inspire a heroic run or cause every Scottish fan to age 7 years in one afternoon. And you have Haiti, a long-shot outsider, but also the exact kind of team that can make the third-place format interesting if they keep matches close. Let's start with the heavyweight tactical matchup, Brazil versus Morocco, the opening Group C fixture on June 13th, 2026. That is not just a football match, that is a systems exam. Brazil's best attacking version usually wants individual superiority in wide zones, rotations between fullback, winger, and interior midfielder, and moments where elite forwards receive facing goal. The goal is to isolate defenders, stretch the back line, and create the kind of 1v1 situations where tactical analysis briefly becomes good luck, mate. But Morocco are built to deny comfort. In 2022, they became the first African team to reach a Men's World Cup semi-final. That run was not an accident, and it was not just passion, which is the word people use when they do not want to explain defensive spacing. Morocco were compact, disciplined, aggressive in duels, and devastating when they could spring forward through wide outlets. The key mechanism was their ability to defend narrow without becoming passive. They protected central areas, forced opponents wide, then trusted their fullbacks and wide players to survive duels and break quickly. Against Spain in 2022, Morocco conceded huge possession but dragged the game into their preferred emotional climate: frustration, patience, and penalty box discipline. Basically, they turned possession into a waiting room. Brazil must avoid that trap. If Brazil move the ball slowly, Morocco can slide, reset, and force them into low-value crosses. If Brazil overcommit, Morocco can counter into the space behind the fullbacks. That is where this becomes fascinating. Brazil will likely want control, but Morocco may welcome Brazil's control if it becomes sterile. Now Scotland bring a different kind of problem. Scotland are not going to out. Brazil in open field technical quality. Nobody sensible is pretending otherwise. But tournament football is not a skills exhibition. It is about match states. Scotland's route is likely built around compactness, set pieces, second balls, and making the game physically uncomfortable. Imagine being a Brazilian attacking midfielder. You receive between the lines, you turn beautifully, you see space, you feel destiny. Then a Scottish midfielder appears like a tax inspector with shin pads. That is the Scotland problem. They can drag more technical teams into games of rhythm disruption, they can attack dead balls, they can overload wide areas, and if they score first, the entire match changes. Brazil or Morocco chasing Scotland is not the same game as Brazil or Morocco calmly managing Scotland. The steel man against Scotland is obvious. At this level, if they defend too deep for too long, elite attackers eventually find shots. You cannot spend 90 minutes inviting Brazil to solve a puzzle and assume they never will. The data of football history is very clear on this. Pressure creates events. Events create mistakes. Mistakes create goals. But the counter is also real. In a 4-team group where third place can still matter, Scotland do not need to dominate everyone. They need to be hard to beat Haiti, and steal enough from one of the big two. One draw against Brazil or Morocco could completely reshape the group. And then there is Haiti. For Haiti, the realistic tactical mission is survival through compactness and emotional clarity. This is not disrespect, this is tournament reality. Against stronger teams, the worst mistake is trying to play a romantic version of football that gives opponents exactly what they want. Haiti's path likely depends on deep organization, protecting central zones, slowing tempo, and making sure a defeat does not become a goal difference disaster. Because in this format, a 2-0 loss and a 5-0 loss are not cousins. They are different species. Haiti's key match is probably against Scotland. That is the game where they may have the most realistic chance to turn discipline into points. A draw there could make Group C extremely uncomfortable, because suddenly the final match day becomes less about reputation and more about arithmetic. And football arithmetic is where calm people go to suffer. The main thing to watch in Group C is this. Can Brazil create central access without losing transition control? If Brazil can circulate quickly, pin Morocco and Scotland back, and counter-press immediately after losing the ball, they should top the group. But if their rest defense is loose, meaning the players behind the attack are badly positioned when possession turns over, Morocco especially can punish them. That is the hidden tactical layer, not the dribbles, the rest defense. Because World Cups are often decided not by your best attacking pattern, but by what happens 3 seconds after it fails. Group C's theme is simple: reputation versus resistance. Brazil bring the history, Morocco bring the blueprint, Scotland bring the chaos, Haiti bring the underdog survival route, and if Brazil think this is a parade, Morocco and Scotland will gladly remind them that World Cups do not hand out points for nostalgia. 5. Group D, United States, Paraguay, Australia, Turkey, the chaos group with a host nation in the middle. Group D is where the World Cup starts looking less like a tournament and more like a psychological stress test. You have the United States, the co-host, trying to prove that home advantage is not just a marketing department with fireworks. You have Paraguay, a South American team with the kind of defensive stubbornness that makes forwards question their career choices. You have Australia, who have turned tournament survival into a national habit. And you have Turkey, probably the most volatile tactical ingredient in the group, talented, aggressive, technically dangerous, and occasionally capable of making a match feel like it is being played inside a thunderstorm. This is not a group with one obvious tactical rhythm. This is a group of collisions. The USA's challenge is expectation. At the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, the United States reached the round of 16 with a young core, drew 1-1 with Wales, drew 0-0 with England, beat Iran 1-0, then lost 3-1 to the Netherlands. That Netherlands match became a useful tactical warning. Athleticism and pressing are not enough if your defensive spacing collapses behind the first wave, because that is the central question for the USA in 2026. Can they press like a modern team without defending like a group project where 3 people did the work and one guy just showed up with vibes? Their strongest version is energetic, front foot pressure, quick regains, vertical attacks, aggressive fullbacks, and midfielders who can cover huge spaces. Players like Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, Yunus Musa, and Gio Reyna give the USA different ways to attack. Pulisic can isolate and carry. McKennie can crash the box. Adams gives ball-winning security. Reyna, if fit and trusted, can add the one thing athletic teams sometimes lack: final third imagination. But the danger is simple. If the USA press badly, they do not just fail to win the ball. They invite opponents into the exact spaces they were trying to protect. Pressing is not running. Pressing is geometry with sweat. Paraguay will test that geometry immediately. The opening match, USA versus Paraguay, is exactly the kind of game that can become uncomfortable if the host nation starts impatiently. Paraguay are not usually the team you want when you need a friendly, open, confidence-building opener. Historically, Paraguay's best World Cup identities have been based on compactness, defensive duels, and making games ugly enough that the opponent loses rhythm. That is not an insult, that is a skill. Their quarter-final run in 2010 is still the reference point. Paraguay conceded just 2 goals in 5 matches before losing to Spain in the quarterfinals. Different generation, different squad, yes, but the national football memory matters. Paraguay understand the emotional value of a low-event match. Against the USA, they may sit in a compact mid-block, deny central lanes, force the Americans wide, and dare them to create clean chances without overcommitting. That is how you turn a host opener into a nervous negotiation. Australia bring another layer. The Socceroos are often underestimated because they do not always arrive with superstar branding. But in tournament football, they are irritating in the best possible way. At the 2022 World Cup, Australia reached the round of 16 after beating Tunisia 1-0 and Denmark 1-0, then pushed Argentina in a 2-1 knockout defeat. Their formula was not complicated, but it was effective. Compact block, physical duels, disciplined defending, and ruthless commitment to the game state. Australia are the team that can make your technically superior midfield look like it is trying to solve a puzzle with oven gloves. Against the USA, they will likely try to slow the tempo and target set pieces. Against Paraguay, they may face a mirror match of physicality and low margins. Against Turkey, they could get dragged into the most fascinating stylistic clash in the group: Australian structure versus Turkish chaos. And then we get to Turkey. Turkey are the team that can blow this group open. They have technical quality, young talent, attacking bravery, and the emotional temperature of a stadium full of people who all believe the referee has personally wronged their family. That intensity can be a weapon. It can also become a tactical tax. The best version of Turkey can press aggressively, combine through midfield, attack with runners from multiple zones, and produce moments of individual brilliance. Their attacking midfield and wide players can create overloads that pull defensive blocks apart. Against Paraguay or Australia, that could be crucial, because both teams may be comfortable defending deeper and waiting for mistakes. But the steelman against Turkey is also obvious. Tournament football punishes emotional imbalance. If they lose their shape while chasing a game, they can become vulnerable in transition. If the fullbacks push at the wrong moment, if the midfield distances stretch, if the center backs are exposed 1v1 too often, then a promising attack becomes a counterattack going the other direction. Beautiful football, meet horrible consequence. The match to circle is USA versus Turkey. That could be the group's chaos final. Both teams have players who like to attack quickly. Both can press, both can leave space if the press breaks. Both have enough individual quality to turn a tactical mistake into a goal before the analyst has finished drawing the arrow on the telestrator. The sleeper match is Paraguay versus Australia. Casual viewers may skip it. Do not. That match could decide who has the clearest third-place route. It could be low-scoring, physical, awkward, and deeply uncomfortable, which is exactly why it matters. One set piece, one second ball, one defensive lapse. Suddenly, a team has 4 points and everyone else is doing calculator work in the hotel lobby. So Group D's tactical theme is pressure versus patience. The USA need to turn home energy into controlled aggression. Paraguay want to suffocate the game. Australia want to survive, scrap, and punish mistakes. Turkey want to turn the volume up and make the group emotionally flammable. And here is the warning for the hosts. At home, the crowd can lift you. It can also rush you. If the United States confuse speed with control, Group D could become a very expensive lesson in tournament humility. 6. Groups E and F. Germany/Ecuador and Netherlands/Japan, the pressing laboratory. Groups E and F feel like they were designed by someone who enjoys making coaches uncomfortable. Group E gives us Germany, Ecuador, Côte d'Ivoire, and Curaçao. Group F gives us Netherlands, Japan, Tunisia, and Sweden. And the reason we are pairing them together is simple. These two groups may tell us more about modern international football than almost any others. Because this is where you see the big tactical question of 2026. Can traditional football powers still control matches against teams that are faster, more compact, more physically aggressive, and more comfortable without the ball? Let's start with Group E. Germany are the headline name. 4-time world champions. The country of Beckenbauer, Müller, Matthäus, Lahm, Neuer, Kroos, and approximately 900 technically efficient midfielders who all look like they understand tax law. But modern Germany have been living inside a strange contradiction. Their player pool remains strong. Their club game produces pressing, positional play, elite goalkeeping, and sophisticated build-up patterns. Yet at recent major tournaments, Germany have sometimes looked less like a machine and more like a machine arguing with itself. The key tactical question is whether Germany can combine control with defensive security. At their best, Germany want territory. They want to push fullbacks high, overload midfield, pin opponents back, counter-press after losing possession, and suffocate the game. The problem is that this style requires excellent rest defense. If your center backs are left defending huge spaces while your midfielders are ahead of the ball, you are not playing dominant football. You are playing transition roulette in a designer jacket, and Ecuador are exactly the wrong team to give transition oxygen. Reuters reported that Ecuador conceded only 5 goals in 18 World Cup qualifiers and kept 13 clean sheets. That is not a small sample. That is a defensive identity. With Moises Caicedo screening midfield and defenders like Willian Pacho, Piero Hincapié, and Pervis Estupiñán, Ecuador have the structure to frustrate possession teams. Their issue is the other side of the ball. Reuters also noted Ecuador scored only 14 goals in qualifying, so the Ecuador equation is clear. Elite defensive base, questionable attacking volume. They can keep games tight, but can they turn tight games into wins? That is the difference between being difficult to play against and actually being dangerous in the bracket. Against Germany, Ecuador may not need the ball for long stretches. They need to stay compact, deny central access, and attack the space behind Germany's advanced players. If Germany circulates slowly, Ecuador's block can breathe. If Germany lose patience and force vertical passes, Caicedo and company can turn midfield into a trapdoor. Now add Côte d'Ivoire. This is the African champions kind of group. Côte d'Ivoire have physical power, wide threat, emotional momentum, and a football culture that understands chaos. The best version of them can stretch matches, attack transitions, and use individual strength to disrupt a controlled European tempo. The warning is discipline. Against Germany and Ecuador, one loose defensive phase can be punished. Côte d'Ivoire cannot live purely on energy. They need compact distances. They need good pressing triggers. They need their midfield line to protect central lanes instead of chasing the ball like it stole something. And then there is Curaçao, one of the great stories of the tournament. For Curaçao, the mission is not romantic possession. It is survival. Stay organized, protect the box, keep goal difference alive, treat set pieces like national infrastructure. In this format, a disciplined draw or a narrow defeat can matter. Their best route is not to impress neutral viewers. It is to make stronger teams miserable. Now, Group F. This one is tactical candy. Netherlands, Japan, Tunisia, Sweden. The Netherlands bring the familiar Dutch question. How much control can they create without becoming predictable? Dutch football history is basically one long philosophical argument about space. Total football, positional play, back three build-up, wing backs, rotations, central occupation. The Dutch do not just play football, they submit essays through passing lanes. Their modern tournament teams often combine technical defenders, strong ball progression, and flexible systems. The danger is that control can become sterile if there is not enough penetration. Keeping the ball is not the same as hurting people with it. Japan will test that immediately. Japan are one of the most fascinating tactical teams in international football. At the 2022 World Cup, they beat Germany 2-1 and Spain 2-1, despite having less possession in both matches. That was not luck dressed as destiny. It was a very specific method. Absorb pressure, stay compact, use substitutions well, attack quickly, and punish opponents who overcommit. Japan are dangerous because they are comfortable suffering. That sounds dramatic, but tactically it matters. Some teams panic without the ball. Japan can spend long spells defending, then suddenly break with precision. Their wide players and midfield runners can attack space before the opponent's rest defense is set. Against the Netherlands, that becomes the group's most interesting chess match. If the Dutch push too many players ahead of the ball, Japan can do what they did to Germany and Spain: wait, steal, explode. Tunisia bring defensive intensity and tournament grit. They are rarely easy. They can compress space, turn games physical, and force opponents into uncomfortable wide attacks. Their route in this group is probably built on one upset result and one disciplined low-event match. Sweden, meanwhile, adds size, structure, and set-piece danger. They are not usually the team you want to face when your center backs are already tired and someone starts launching diagonal balls into the box like it is a weather event. The match to circle is Netherlands versus Japan. That is control versus ambush. The sleeper match is Sweden versus Tunisia. That could decide who has the third-place lifeline. It may not be pretty. It may involve elbows, second balls, and at least one commentator saying, "That's a proper challenge," while a player lies on the grass reconsidering his life. The tactical theme across groups E and F is this: possession is no longer enough. Germany and the Netherlands may have the bigger reputations, but Ecuador and Japan are built to expose possession teams that leave the back door open. Côte d'Ivoire and Sweden can change games physically. Tunisia and Curacao can make the math ugly. And that is the modern World Cup. You can have the ball, but if your rest defense is bad, all you are doing is politely arranging your own counterattack. 7. Groups G, H, and I. Belgium, Spain, and France walk into 3 very different traps. Now we get to the part of the tournament where the casual viewer says, okay, Belgium should be fine, Spain should be fine, France should be fine. And that is exactly when World Cups start sharpening the knife. Because groups G, H, and I all have a favorite, but each favorite faces a different kind of tactical trap. Group G, Belgium, Iran, Egypt, New Zealand. Group H, Spain, Uruguay, Saudi Arabia, Cape Verde. Group 1, France, Senegal, Norway, Iraq. On paper, the big names are obvious. Belgium have elite European pedigree. Spain are the reigning European champions. France are France, which at this point is less a team and more a factory that accidentally produces another world-class forward every time someone opens a garage door. But group stage football is not played on paper. Paper does not press. Paper does not defend the back post. Paper does not have to mark Erling Haaland while also pretending it is emotionally stable. Let's begin with Group G, because Belgium's situation is fascinating. Belgium are no longer the peak golden generation version that had Eden Hazard, Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku, Thibaut Courtois, Vincent Kompany, John Vertonghen, Toby Alderweireld, and enough talent to make football manager players behave irresponsibly. That era produced a third-place finish at the 2018 World Cup, which was Belgium's best ever men's World Cup finish. But 2026 Belgium are a different question. They still have quality, they still have technical players, they still have attacking threat. But the tactical issue is transition defense and age profile balance. Can they control games without becoming stretched? Can their midfield protect the center backs? Can they create enough chances without leaning too heavily on reputation? Iran will test them in exactly the way Belgium may not enjoy. Iran are usually organized, physically committed, and comfortable in compact defensive structures. Their route is likely based on low to mid-block discipline, direct transitions, set pieces, and making the favorite deal with frustration. Against Belgium, Iran do not need to win the possession chart. They need to keep the game alive long enough for Belgium to start forcing things. Egypt bring a different problem, individual attacking gravity. If Mohamed Salah is fit and firing, Egypt have one of the most dangerous transition weapons in world football. Salah changes defensive behavior before he even touches the ball. Fullbacks hesitate, center backs drop early, midfielders take fewer risks. That is tactical influence, not vibes. Influence. Egypt's strongest route is probably simple: defend compactly, release quickly, and attack the channel before the opponent resets. Against Belgium, that could be decisive. Against Iran or New Zealand, Egypt may need more initiative, which is a different challenge. And New Zealand? New Zealand's World Cup identity is built on being awkward, physical, and extremely aware that nobody enjoys playing them when the match becomes a duel festival. They are unlikely to dominate the ball against Belgium or Egypt, but if they can keep matches close, defend set pieces well, and attack dead balls, they can become a third-place problem. In this format, one draw can be useful. Two draws can become a genuine survival argument. So Group G's theme is aging control versus transition danger. Belgium may have the most talent, but Iran and Egypt can both punish looseness. New Zealand can make the math unpleasant. That is not a group you sleepwalk through. Now Group H, Spain, Uruguay, Saudi Arabia, Cape Verde. This might be one of the most tactically layered groups in the tournament. Spain are the headline act. Under Luis de la Fuente, they have leaned into a more direct, vertical version of Spanish control than the old stereotype. Yes, they can still dominate possession. Yes, they can still combine through midfield. But the modern Spain are not just 900 passes while the opponent slowly loses the will to exist. They have wingers who attack defenders. They have more speed. They can change tempo. That matters because Spain's biggest historical weakness has often been sterile possession. You remember the feeling Spain have 73% of the ball, 812 passes, 14 corners, and somehow the opponent has the best chance of the match because a fullback got bored and wandered into midfield like a tourist. The 2026 version has a chance to be more dangerous because players like Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams can create width and 1v1 threat. But there is a current fitness note worth respecting. Reuters reported that Spain rested Yamal, Nico Williams, and Rodri in their final home, friendly against Iraq, because of fitness concerns. A match Spain drew 1-1 with a rotated squad. That does not mean panic, it means nuance. Availability matters, timing matters, tournament rhythm matters, because Group H is not gentle. Uruguay may be the toughest Pot 2 style opponent a favorite could face. Their modern identity is intense, aggressive, vertical, and emotionally allergic to passive football. They can press, they can duel, they can attack quickly, they can make a possession team feel like it is being chased by debt collectors. Spain versus Uruguay is the tactical jewel here. Spain want to move you side to side, open lanes, and attack with controlled creativity. Uruguay want to compress time. They want to make every reception feel rushed. They want to turn midfield into a physical argument. The key mechanic is Spain's first phase. If Spain beat Uruguay's press cleanly, they can access the spaces behind Uruguay's midfield and create high-value attacks. If they cannot, Uruguay can turn Spanish build-up into turnovers. And there are few things more dangerous than losing the ball centrally against a team that treats transitions like a national holiday. Saudi Arabia add the upset memory. At the 2022 World Cup, Saudi Arabia beat Argentina 2-1 in one of the most shocking results in tournament history. That match was a tactical case study. Aggressive high line, brave pressure, compact distances, and ruthless confidence. Now, it is fair to say repeating that kind of upset is extremely difficult. The strongest counter-argument is that one famous result can distort expectations. Saudi Arabia also lost their next two group matches in 2022, but the lesson remains. They are not passive tourists. Against Spain or Uruguay, Saudi Arabia's line height and pressing bravery will be crucial. Too deep and Spain can suffocate them. Too high without pressure and Uruguay can attack behind them. They need the brave version, not the reckless version. There is a difference. Brave is coordinated. reckless is just a high line with hope and paperwork. Cape Verde are one of the great debut stories. The Guardian described Cape Verde's squad as drawn from 25 clubs across 14 countries, with the national mood shaped by Morabeza, a Creole concept often associated with warmth, hospitality, and relaxed resilience. That matters because tournament debutants often carry a unique emotional profile. They are not just playing matches. They are representing a first national World Cup moment that can inspire fearless football, or it can become heavy. Tactically, Cape Verde's route is discipline plus moments. Stay compact, use athletic forwards, attack set pieces. Do not let Spain turn the match into a training drill. Do not let Uruguay turn it into a wrestling documentary. And against Saudi Arabia, be ready for the game that may define whether third place is possible. Finally, Group I, France, Senegal, Norway, Iraq. This is probably the most fascinating favorite plus danger everywhere group in the tournament. France have the depth, they have elite athletes, they have tournament know-how, they have attacking weapons that can make defensive planning feel like choosing how you would prefer to be embarrassed. France's modern strength is not only individual quality, it is game state flexibility. They can dominate, they can counter, they can suffer, they can win ugly. That is why they are usually dangerous in tournaments. But Senegal are not a soft second team. Senegal have athleticism, defensive strength, and recent tournament credibility as African champions in 2021 and consistent KF contenders. Their best version is compact, powerful, and dangerous through fast, wide attacks. Against France, Senegal may not need to control possession. They need to deny central progression, win duels, and attack the space France leave when their fullbacks or midfielders advance. Then there is Norway. Norway may be the strangest tactical headache in the group because their threat is so obvious and still so hard to stop. Erling Haaland is not a mystery. He is not sneaky. He is not hiding behind a curtain. Everyone knows what he wants: separation, box access, early service, transition space, and one defender making one tiny mistake before suddenly the ball is in the net, and everyone is discussing fine margins. The issue with Norway is supply. If Norway can get the ball into dangerous zones quickly enough, Haaland changes the entire group. If opponents cut off the service, Norway can look blunt. This is why Martin Odegaard, if fit and central to the system, matters so much. He is the connector, the lockpicker, the player who can turn possession into service rather than just circulation. France versus Norway could be a tactical blockbuster because France may have the athletic defenders to survive Haaland physically, but even elite defenders hate repeated box defending. One run, one cross, one half yard. That is all it takes. Iraq are the outsider, but not irrelevant. Reuters reported Iraq held Spain to a 1-1 draw in a warm-up, with Mircea Doski scoring a superb lob from a tight angle. Now, a friendly is not a World Cup guarantee, but it is a reminder. Iraq can organize, compete, and punish casual defending. Their route is narrow but clear: defend compactly, keep games close, and target the match where points are most realistic. Across these three groups, the theme is favorites under stylistic stress. Belgium must manage transition danger. Spain must prove their control has teeth. France must survive a group where Senegal can match them physically, and Norway have the most obvious cheat code in world football. And this is also the perfect moment to say, if you are enjoying these tactical group guides, hit subscribe, because we are going group by group, system by system, trap by trap. And yes, we are absolutely going to overthink a 0-0 draw like it was a coded message from the football gods. Also, let me know in the comments, which favorite do you think is most vulnerable? Belgium, Spain, or France? 8. Groups J, K, and L, the legacy groups, Messi, Ronaldo, England, and the teams trying to ruin the poster. Now we arrive at the legacy wing of the museum. Group J, Argentina, Algeria, Austria, Jordan. Group K, Portugal, DR Congo, Uzbekistan, Colombia. Group L, England, Croatia, Ghana, Panama. This is where the storylines become almost too obvious. Argentina defending their crown. Portugal with Cristiano Ronaldo potentially at another World Cup. England trying to finally turn talent into the big trophy. Croatia, again, standing in the doorway like an old tournament ghost whispering, "Remember 2018? But the tactical reality is more interesting than the poster. Let's start with Group J. Argentina are the champions. That matters. Not because past trophies win current matches, but because winning changes the way opponents play you. Teams respect your transitions more. They defend deeper. They foul earlier. They treat every Argentine midfielder receiving between the lines like the beginning of a national emergency. Argentina's strongest tactical identity is control with bite. They are not just a possession team. They can manage tempo, draw fouls, play through pressure, counter-press, and turn emotional moments into game control. The 2022 team did this brilliantly. Lionel Messi gave them creativity and finishing, but the machine around him mattered. Rodrigo de Paul's running, Enzo Fernandez's progression, Alexis McAllister's timing, and the defensive aggression behind them. But 2026 brings the obvious question. Can Argentina still control games if the physical load shifts? Austria may be the perfect stress test. Under Ralf Rangnick, Austria's football has leaned toward pressing, verticality, and collective aggression. They want to make you play quickly, then punish the rushed pass. Against Argentina, that is fascinating. If Austria press well, they can disrupt Argentina's rhythm. If Argentina break the press, Austria may suddenly find themselves defending elite attackers in open space. That is the pressing paradox. Pressing makes you brave. It also makes you available for embarrassment. Algeria bring technical flair, wide danger, and tournament edge. They are not a team Argentina or Austria can treat casually. If Algeria can control central spaces and get their creators facing forward, they can become a dangerous third-place threat, maybe more. Their issue is consistency across 3 matches. One great performance is not enough anymore. You need emotional recovery. You need defensive structure. You need the boring things that win tournaments. Jordan are the debut story. Reuters reported their first World Cup squad is led by Moussa Al-Tamari, and their opening match is against Austria on June 17th in San Francisco. For Jordan, the tactical route is clarity, compact block, disciplined distances, and fast releases into Al-Tamari. First-time teams often face a brutal emotional challenge. The anthem, the crowd, the cameras, suddenly the match feels bigger than the pitch. The best thing Jordan can do is simplify the game, survive first, then dream. Now Group K, Portugal, DR Congo, Uzbekistan, Colombia. Portugal will probably have the most possession in this group. They have technical depth, attacking options, fullbacks who can influence the game, and enough midfield quality to dominate territory. But the old Portugal question remains, does the attack flow naturally, or does it become a collection of famous names taking turns? That sounds harsh. It is also the difference between a great squad and a great team. If Portugal circulate quickly, rotate their attacking midfielders, and create clean wide isolations, they can hurt anyone. If they become predictable, Colombia will smell blood, because Colombia are dangerous. They bring athleticism, flair, directness, and that beautiful South American ability to turn a normal midfield duel into a personal feud with witnesses. Colombia can press in bursts, counter through wide runners, and make matches emotionally unstable. Against Portugal, the key will be whether Colombia can deny central progression and then attack the space behind Portugal's advanced fullbacks. DR Congo are not just there for decoration either. They have physical power, direct threat, and players who can make set pieces extremely uncomfortable. In this group, that matters. Portugal and Colombia may expect to control the ball, but DR Congo can drag them into duels and second balls. Uzbekistan are one of the most interesting debutants. Their path is organization plus bravery. They cannot afford to become passive for 90 minutes, especially against Portugal, but they also cannot open the pitch recklessly. Their likely tournament depends on the Colombia and DR Congo matches, the games where a point or one win could make third place very real. Group K's theme is talent versus turbulence. Portugal have the ceiling, Colombia have the chaos, DR Congo have physical disruption, Uzbekistan have the underdog structure, and then we get to Group L. England, Croatia, Ghana, Panama. You can almost hear English fans already negotiating with the universe. England begin against Croatia on June 17th in Arlington, Texas, which is hilarious in the most painful way possible because Croatia ended England's 2018 World Cup dream in the semi-final. Different year, different squads, same emotional scar tissue. England's tactical question is not whether they have talent. They clearly do. The question is whether they can create controlled attacking pressure without becoming cautious at the exact moment bravery is required. That has been the England debate for years. The strongest argument in England's favor is their squad depth. They have elite attackers, creative midfielders, strong defenders, and a generation used to playing high-level club football. But the counter-argument is tournament rhythm. England have sometimes become too conservative in decisive moments, protecting the possibility of winning rather than actively increasing it. Croatia are the perfect test because they are experts at refusing to die. Croatia's modern tournament identity is built on midfield intelligence, emotional calm, and the ability to survive ugly moments. Even when they are not dominant, they can slow games down, force extra possessions, and make opponents feel like the match is slipping into a swamp. If Luka Modric is still involved, the symbolism alone is outrageous. Footballers are supposed to age. Modric apparently just becomes more antique and more valuable. Ghana bring pace, transition threat, and physical energy. Their best route is to attack the spaces England or Croatia leave behind. Against Panama, they may need to take more initiative. That is always the test for transition teams. Can you create when the opponent refuses to give you space? Panama are the underdogs, but their role is dangerous. They can make games physical, defend compactly, and target set pieces. In a 48-team format, Panama do not need to dominate the group. They need to stay alive long enough for one match to become weird. And World Cups love weird. So the final tactical theme is legacy versus disruption. Argentina, Portugal, and England carry history, pressure, and star power. But Austria, Colombia, Croatia, Ghana, and others have the tools to make the narrative extremely inconvenient. And that is the lesson of this entire 2026 group guide. The expanded World Cup does not make the group stage easier. It makes it stranger. More teams survive. More third-place scenarios matter. More managers will protect goal difference. More favorites will face opponents who do not care about reputation, shirt history, or how many millions of followers their star winger has. So when you watch these groups, do not just ask, who has the best player? Ask better questions. Who controls transition? Who defends set pieces? Who can suffer without collapsing? Who can break a low block? Who can press without leaving the back door open? Because in 2026, the World Cup may be won by brilliance, but it may be survived by structure. And sometimes, survival is the first tactic of champions. If you enjoyed this tactical guide, hit subscribe, like the video, and drop a comment with the group you think will produce the biggest upset. Also, if you want a separate deep dive on one specific group, one national team, or one tactical matchup, maybe Spain versus Uruguay, Brazil versus Morocco, or England versus Croatia, let me know. Thanks for watching, and remember, in tournament football, the scariest opponent is not always the best team. Sometimes it is the team that knows exactly how to make your best team uncomfortable.